Hello, my little nuggets. This lesson is going to cover how to write an 11-sentence paragraph. So in the course of this video, we're going to go over the 3 main parts of a paragraph, how you can use the 6 steps of the writing process to write a paragraph, how to write a paragraph based on the 11-sentence graphic organizer, how to evaluate a paragraph for unity and coherence, different ways you can organize paragraphs, and last but not least, how to use transitions in paragraphs. Let's get started. First, before we begin, let's review what is a paragraph. Now, you should already know this definition from middle school, but just for the sake of review, a paragraph is when you have sentences grouped together for a reason, usually to present and support one main idea. I put a picture of an umbrella over here because I'd like you to think of a paragraph as being like an umbrella, because that main idea has one central focus. It's only about one thing. So just like an umbrella, you can hold it over something. That main idea will cover everything that's inside your paragraph. Keep that concept in the back of your mind because it's going to be important when we talk about unity later on. How can we use paragraphs? Again, this should be review. First of all, they can stand alone. So for example, for your museum blog assignment, you are writing just a standalone paragraph. You are not writing a full-fledged essay. But obviously, they can work together with other paragraphs to develop topics in a composition. Now, composition is a more general word than essay, because of course you can have paragraphs and things besides essays. So a composition we will define as a longer piece of writing that consists of multiple paragraphs. So some examples would be essays, speeches, short stories, articles, reports, and other narratives. Although we're not going to cover it today, I do want to mention that they can also be used to show dialogue. As you know, dialogue is a conversation between 2 or more characters. So we use paragraphs to show when different people are speaking, along with tags like he said, she said. There are 3 core parts of the paragraph. Let's start by reviewing those. First, your paragraph should always begin with a topic sentence, whether your paragraph is standing alone or whether it's part of a longer composition. So what is it? A topic sentence is the statement of a paragraph's main idea. If it's standing alone, it'll also be used to grab attention. If it's in a longer composition, it may also transition to a new topic. So for example, if there are paragraphs before it, you'll need to transition to the new topic in a longer composition. So topic sentence says what one topic is covered in the paragraph. Secondly, once you have your topic, you have to support it. Otherwise, why should anyone believe you or fall for your argument? So you're going to need support. Supporting sentences, what they do, they elaborate on and support the topic sentence. Another word for elaborate would be explain. In your supporting sentences, you're providing details and reasons or facts that are going to support the topic sentence that you started with. And last but not least, you have a clincher sentence. This is also called a conclusion or a concluding statement. Basically, it satisfies readers because it lets them know that you're done and they feel satisfied that they've understood what you were trying to communicate. It closes your paragraph. It's important to remember that the clincher sentence is not exactly the same as your topic sentence. So you see right here, it refers to the main idea mentioned in the topic sentence. Refers is not the same as repeats. If you've ever been in a room when someone throws up or they vomit, it's an unpleasant experience. It smells bad, sounds bad. Well, when you vomit at the end of your paper, by regurgitating the exact same sentence that you have for your topic sentence, your readers aren't very happy either. So remember with your clincher or your conclusion that it refers to the main idea in the topic sentence, but it doesn't repeat it. And also, it should drive home your purpose, whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. So if you're trying to get someone to do something, you might end with a call to action, for example. So again, the three parts are topic sentence, supporting sentences, and clincher or conclusion. Why am I stressing the structure of a paragraph, and why are we starting with paragraphs instead of just leaping into full-fledged essays? Well, there is method in my madness. If you can write a very well-developed, very well-organized paragraph, you can write a super fantastic essay. So basically, the structure that you use in a paragraph expands in a composition. So what you see on the right side of your screen, this is the overall structure of a full-fledged essay. I want to show you how a paragraph connects with this in terms of the same basic structure. First, you have a topic sentence in your paragraph. In your full-fledged composition or essay, the topic sentence is the equivalent of an introductory paragraph, an introduction that includes an attention getter, has your thesis, and it overviews the essay map, what it is that you're going to be arguing or discussing. In your paragraph, you usually have at least 2 or 3 big ideas for your supporting details. In an essay, these turn into body paragraphs. Now, obviously, we're discussing an 11-sentence paragraph. I'm showing you on the right side of your screen the rough outline of a 5-paragraph essay. But the truth of the matter is, there is no set sentence limit for a paragraph. There is no set number of paragraphs for an essay. Your paragraphs and your essays should be as long as they need to be to clearly explain your ideas or to clearly answer the question that you've been asked if it's for a classroom assessment or a classroom assignment. So we had topic sentence equals introduction, big ideas or supporting details equal body paragraphs, and then last but not least, you guessed it, instead of just a clincher statement or a conclusion sentence, in a full-fledged essay, you have a concluding paragraph or your conclusion where you restate your thesis, sum up your points, and end on a thoughtful note or a call to action depending on what your purpose is. So you can see how reviewing the paragraph is going to help you when we begin to write full-length essays. Now, this lesson assumes that you already have pre-writing in front of you. I discussed how to use the 11-sentence paragraph organizer in another video that you can check out on Channel Nugget on YouTube. This particular graphic organizer is from the Museum blog assignment from 2014. So you've seen this before, and you should have yours done today in class, incidentally. Let's look at how you take the graphic organizer from pre-writing to actual composing. Composing is the stage when you actually sit down and write your essay. Now, obviously, your graphic organizer is not incomplete sentences. Now it's time, you have your game plan, you have your blueprint, now it's time to actually write. The problem is sometimes people don't know where to go when they look at the organizer. So I'm going to walk you through it. First, your first sentence is going to be where the number 1 is. Your first sentence should try to grab attention, and it should mention what you're talking about. And in this assignment example, it's Pharrell Williams' hat at the museum. After that, your second sentence will introduce your first main point, which for this assignment is the fact that you should go see it because he's a famous singer, songwriter, and producer, belonged to somebody famous. From there, you'll have sentence 3 and sentence 4. Notice both of these sentences are labeled with elaborate. These are supporting details that specifically support your first main point, sentence number 2, the sentence that came immediately before them. After sentence 4, you're going to want to transition to sentence 5, which should be your second main point. In this assignment, it's that you should want to go see the hat because it's so famous on its own. It went viral. Just as we saw with the first point, sentence 6 and then sentence 7 will be elaborating on your second main point. Finally, you'll transition to your last and your third main point. In this assignment, it's about how the hat has become a fashion icon. And then sentence 9 and 10 both provide additional facts and details about the fashion related to the hat and the designer. Finally, we go to your clincher. Your last sentence will be basically wrapping it up and reinforcing your purpose. So again, you might be viewing this video for a different assignment, but you can see how you just very easily follow the flow of the organizer to write your essay in the composing stage of the writing process. Sometimes it helps to look at this a different way. So if you're a person who's not very graphically inclined, if you're a person who prefers lists, here's another way of looking at what was on the previous slide. Sentence 1 will be the attention getter to introduce the hat, followed by supporting details, elaboration, your second supporting detail, elaboration for your second supporting detail, your third supporting detail, elaboration for that third supporting detail, and finally, your clincher or concluding sentence. Feel free to pause this if you'd like to take time to read through the outline on this page. Now, this is a sample of what a student might write based on that organizer. Keep in mind this is a rough draft and it is definitely far from perfect, but it does show how you can go from organizer to paragraph. Let's read this. It says, "You can now see Pharrell Williams' hat at the museum. Pharrell Williams is a famous singer-songwriter and producer who has scored hits such as Get Lucky, Come Get It Bae, and Happy, which appeared on the soundtrack for Despicable Me. He is currently a coach on the TV show The Voice. After Williams wore the hat at the Grammys, it went viral. It even spawned a Twitter parody viewed by over 11 million people. The hat was so popular that Arby's actually bought it from Williams for $44,100. The hat became a fashion icon. It was designed by Vivienne Westwood. She originally created it in 1982, but Williams bought it in London a few years ago. Other artists have worn the hat too, which comes in a variety of colors. They should have more exhibits at the museum. I'd love to see some of Beyonce's shoes and clothing. Everyone should go see this exhibit at the museum." Now, think about what your reactions are to this rough draft. How do you feel about it? How does it sound? As the reader, does this meet your needs? I would guess no. It's very choppy, and there aren't really a lot of connections between ideas, and a lot of the sentence structures are the same. So let's look at how we can revise and edit this to make it better. Before we begin to revise and edit, it's always important to take a step back and look at the big picture. After all, if you don't answer the question that you've been asked, or if you aren't meeting the assignment guidelines in general, you're going to fail the assignment, no matter how wonderful your writing is. So always evaluate before you begin to revise and edit. First, ask yourself, did I meet the assignment requirements? For the museum blog assignment, you're required to have 11 sentences, and it has to be on topic. You are given the topic to persuade someone to see a certain exhibit at the museum. I think we've done that in this paragraph. You should also ask yourself, well, how well will this paragraph achieve my purpose? So for different assignments, your purpose may vary, but for this assignment, we're persuading people to go see the hat. So based on what you just read, would you be persuaded to go see it? Would somebody find it interesting? I think this is probably where this student's weakness is. It's not really persuasive because it doesn't have transitions. It basically just lists different things without really connecting ideas. So I'm sure that we can make this better. When you're revising, there are certain things you should do. Revising is different than editing. Revising is all about your ideas. It is not about fixing errors. So here are the things that you focus on when you revise. You ask yourself, what do I need to add? What do I need to get rid of or cut? Do I need to rearrange anything? Sometimes you might want to rearrange ideas to put something more important earlier or later in your essay, for example. This one's very important. Do ideas flow and make sense? I would argue this was the main problem in the example paragraph we just looked at. Things don't really connect. Do you make good word choices? If you use a lot of really general words and not very precise word choices, your readers are probably going to be bored, or you might be writing on a level that's too low for them, which will be boring. So always check your word choice. And last but not least, does this fit the audience that you're writing for, and does this fit your purpose? For most paragraph assignments and for essay assignments, I will ask you specifically to look at two different things when you're revising. I will ask you to look at unity, which we're going to discuss on this slide, and I will also ask you to revise for coherence. So let's learn what those terms mean. First, unity. What do I mean when I say that? Unity means that all parts of the paragraph work together as a unit to express and support a single idea. So when you're revising for unity, the question that you want to ask yourself is, what doesn't belong? So obviously in this picture on the right side of your screen, this duckling does not belong because, well, you could say two reasons. One, he's yellow, and the other little ducklings are black. And also, he's below the step whilst they are on top. So anything that doesn't fit in your paragraph, you want to cut. So for example, if we go back to the paragraph, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but if you look at the bottom of the paragraph, you'll notice that there was some extra information that didn't fit my topic of Pharrell Williams' hat. I added extra information about having more exhibits at the museum and that I'd love to see something from Beyonce there. All that might be true, but it doesn't fit in the paragraph because I'm not talking about Beyonce. I'm not talking about what exhibits the museum should add. I'm specifically talking about one exhibit, and that's Pharrell Williams' hat. So this doesn't belong there. That's something when I revise, I will definitely want to cut out. So if unity is everything working together and only relating to one topic, coherence is all ideas are arranged in a way that makes sense to readers. Let's talk about some of the pictures here. One of the main problems that I see in freshman student writing is that when you're thinking it in your mind, all your ideas connect. Why do they connect? Because you are the one who thought them. You're the one who came up with them. What happens sometimes when we write is that what seems obvious to us is not obvious to our readers. When you check for coherence, you're trying to really read your own work the way a reader who hasn't thought what you've thought, how they're going to think about what you're communicating. You want to make sure that, like this guy, your readers don't fall into the holes or gaps in your thinking. It's very easy for readers to get lost if you aren't careful. You need to make sure that you are connecting the dots and constructing your essay in a way that there are no puzzle pieces missing. Everything should be clear and easy to understand, and your reader really should not have to think too hard about what it is that you're trying to communicate. If they do have to think about what you're trying to say and they're guessing, you're not communicating clearly and you need to do some revision. Always ask yourself two questions when you're looking for coherence. First, how did you organize your ideas? Was it a good organizational pattern for you? And second, did you use transitions? Let's look at both of these two facets of coherence one at a time, starting with organization. There are lots of different organizational patterns that you use in paragraphs and in essays. You want to remember these patterns because we're going to use them multiple times throughout the year, and you're also going to use them on your SOL and for the duration of your high school and collegiate academic careers. First type of organizational pattern is chronological order, and that's when events are presented or communicated in time order. So you have this happened first, then this, then this, then this. Chronological order is commonly used when you are telling a story, or when you are giving directions, or when you are explaining a process. A second type of organizational pattern is something called spatial order. Spatial sounds like the word space, and that's because spatial order is used to describe things according to where they're located in relation to one another or to the viewer. So you're going to use a lot of prepositions such as in, on, up, beside, behind, because you are describing things based on where they are located. So for example, if you were describing the layout of Potomac. You might start at the east side of the building and start describing it there and work your way to the west side. Or you might start on the first floor and then describe the second floor. Those are examples of spatial order. Spatial order is usually used for descriptive purposes or expository purposes. A third type is order of importance. It's used to show how important the details are in relation to each other. There are two ways that you can do this. You can do least important to most important, or most important to least important. Different teachers will disagree, and different students will disagree on which method is more effective. That is completely up to you. I put a picture of the food pyramid and of Olympians because I think that stresses priorities. So the food pyramid, the bottom, the bread, cereals, rice, pasta group, it's larger or more of a priority. And then as you move up the pyramid, the different food groups decrease in priority for your body's needs. Similarly, you want to think about that in your essays and in your paragraphs, what you want to stress to your reader, and that will help determine your order. This is used for persuasion especially. And the last one, logical order. Logical order is when you group like things or things that are related together. So you see the Legos on the left are sorted by color. The shoes on the right, you could sort your shoes in your closet by type. Similarly, you can do this in your essay. Logical order is used for persuasion and also for expository. Expository is an essay that explains something or perhaps analyzes something. So here are all four of them together: chronological, spatial, order of importance, and logical order. It's of course very possible in a longer composition to use more than one type depending on your needs. But for a single standalone paragraph assignment, and in particular for the museum assignment, which is our example, order of importance or logical order make the most sense for us to use for our paragraph. All right, also to improve coherence, we need to make sure that we have transitions. And this was by far the biggest problem with the sample paragraph that we had. Think about your GPS. When the little voice comes on Surrey or on Google Maps and it tells you to turn right, go straight, turn left, Surrey or Google Maps, they're guiding you to your final destination. Similarly, transitions guide you and your readers to your final destination, your main point. So transitions use words and phrases to connect ideas for your readers. You want to think of these words as road signs. If you don't have good transitions, again, you're going to have those gaps in thoughts. It's not going to be coherent for your readers, and you're going to have readers scratching their heads and looking like these unfortunate individuals up here. So try to create bridges for your readers. One good way to do this, in addition to transition words, is to make direct references to ideas that you've mentioned earlier. I'm not going to go into any depth with direct references today, but I do want you to know that they exist. So what is a direct reference? Well, when you refer to something, you mention it. So when you use direct references, you are linking ideas by referring to nouns, pronouns, words, phrases that echo things that you said earlier. And this helps readers make the same connections that you were making when you originally thought your ideas before you ever wrote them down. This slide is very useful. You might want to take a picture with your phone. There's too much here for you to write down, and I understand and appreciate that. But this is a very useful slide because it lists many of the common transition words and phrases that you would use for different purposes. So, for example, we said that today we're talking about order of importance or topical order, and that's when we present things in order of importance or priority or topic. And you see there are some example transition words here: first, last, mainly, then, to begin with, more importantly. I'm not going to read all of these, but go ahead and feel free to pause and skim through them and read through them on your own. Hit play when you're ready to resume. Once you've done your revision, you've added things, you've cut things, you've rearranged, you've improved your word choices, you've evaluated, made sure your purpose has been met, then it's time to do your cleanup work. The reason why revision comes before editing is because your ideas are what matter more than anything else. After you revise, then you edit. It's important to be careful and conscientious with editing because if you have too many errors, number one, your readers think that you're stupid and they don't want to listen to anything you have to say. You're not reliable or credible because you haven't taken care or time to polish your work. Okay, so that's number one. And number two, sometimes if you have too many errors, it can actually interfere with your reader's comprehension. It's impossible for them to really understand exactly what you're saying because there are too many mistakes. So here are the most important things that you should check for when you edit. Always check for typos. Oftentimes, spell check and grammar check won't catch these. Remember, it's only a computer. It's not a human being. So yes, use your spell check and grammar check, but always read through it as a human being on your own before you print it or submit it to Essay Tagger. Always double check your spelling. Again, spell check is great, but it's not perfect. So always double check. Capitalization. Are your proper nouns capitalized? Are the beginning of your sentences capitalized? Have you capitalized anything that's not supposed to be capitalized? Punctuation. This especially is important to check your end punctuation, but as we go throughout the year learning about things like commas and semicolons, hyphens, and parentheses, you'll also look for these as well. As you know, sentence fragments are a huge no-no. If there are incomplete thoughts, you need to fix them. And run-ons. Run-ons is something that we will cover soon. Run-ons are when you try to put too many ideas in one sentence. Sometimes you can have a million ands, A-N-D-S, in a sentence, and you end up with anditis, and it gets very confusing for readers. So always check that your sentences aren't running on and on and on. I think what you'll find is that just like this person is waxing the car, that's basically what editing is. I mean, it's still the car. In your revising and composing, you've built the car, you've painted the car, but when you edit and proofread, you're buffing and waxing it and polishing it so that it shines and it looks its best. And the last step, of course, is to publish, to share your work with the world. Okay, and we will always do that in this class. Sometimes it might be online, sometimes it might be just with a handful of people, sometimes it might just be with your group members. So let's look at how far we've come with our student sample paragraph for the museum blog. This was our original rough draft. It was very rough, it was imperfect, had some errors, and it definitely needed a lot of revision, especially for transitions. You can pause this if you'd like to read through the original rough draft now, before we move on to the final polished copy. Now you see we have a nice smooth road up here, and that's because this is the ready to publish sample final draft version. I'm going to read through this. You'll notice I've highlighted some of the transition words that have been added to the paragraph. I did not highlight direct references, but they are there, so see if you can identify some of them. As I read through this, be thinking of how this is much better than this. You can't meet Pharrell Williams in person, but for a limited time only, you can meet his funky hat at the museum. The famous singer-songwriter and producer has been a regular chart topper, producing a chain of hits, including the songs Get Lucky, Come Get It Bae, and the feel-good phenomenon Happy, which led the soundtrack for the kids' movie Despicable Me. In fact, he currently shares his expertise with fledgling artists on the reality TV show The Voice. However, Pharrell became known for more than just his musical chops. After wearing a unique hat to the Grammys, his fashion statement went viral on the web. It spawned a Twitter parody and even has its own Twitter feed now. Later, Arby's attempted to raise buzz for their chain of restaurants by purchasing the hat at a charity auction for $44,100. Whether you love the hat or hate the hat, no one can deny that all of this hype has turned Pharrell's hat into a fashion phenomenon. Visitors to the museum may be surprised to learn that the hat is actually nothing new. Created by designer Vivienne Westwood, it has been on the market since 1982. Pharrell purchased the headpiece originally known as the Mountain Hat in London a few years ago. If you want to imitate his look, you can choose one for yourself. It comes in 12 different colors of felt, and there is even a straw version. Be sure to visit this fun exhibit on the concourse level of the museum during your visit, because it will only be on display for a limited time. Now, is this a perfect paragraph? It's not perfect, but it's a lot better. This has a much stronger attention grabber. We have transitions between ideas. We have stronger word choices, for example, musical chops, soundtrack, fledgling. And everything flows, and we have a stronger concluding sentence that calls to action. So this is an example of what a sample 11-sentence paragraph might look like. As you can see, with a little bit more research, it would be very easy to take this paragraph and turn it into a longer composition by taking the topic sentence and turning it into an introduction, the supporting details turning them into body paragraphs, and the clincher turning that into a conclusion. I hope this helped. If you have any questions, please feel free to come see me. I'm available on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Until then, Nuggets, stay happy.